Heidi-Chapter 16 Home at Last. Mr. Sesamon was really upset. He went upstairs and called his servants. Joan was said to order the horses and carriage. Tinette was to dress Heidi for travelling as soon as the child woke up from sleep. Miss Rottenmeier was to see that Heidi's things were packed at once. Having done all this, Mr. Sesamon hurried away to his daughter's room. When Clara came to know that Heidi was leaving, she was very unhappy. She begged of her father not to send Heidi away, but Mr. Sesamon felt that he must follow the doctor's orders. He promised Clara to take her to Switzerland the next year. Then Clara was quite happy. After a while, Mr. Sesamon told Heidi that she was going home. At first, Heidi couldn't believe. Mr. Sesamon told Heidi to go to Clara and bid her a goodbye. Clara was in bed. She called out, "Look, Heidi!" Heidi looked, and what wonderful things she saw. There was a hat, dresses, handkerchiefs, underclothes and sweaters for her. And best of all, in a pretty basket there was a dozen lovely soft white rolls for Granny. Heidi jumped for joy. Very soon it was time for Heidi to leave. When Mr. Sesamon called her, Heidi rushed to her room. She had to pick up her precious book, her old hat in it. Then putting on her pretty new hat, she left the room. Just before Heidi got into the carriage, she thanked Mr. Sesamon very nicely for being so kind to her. "Please thank Dr. Clesson for me too," she added shyly. Then she climbed into the carriage. Sebastian got in beside her. He was carrying a large basket of things to eat. As soon as they settled in, the carriage rolled away. They travelled for several hours. At last they arrived at Mainfeld. Here Sebastian looked around for someone who could guide him to Dofley. A strong, well-built man was loading sacks into a wagon. He was the baker at Dofley. He had come to Mainfeld to get flour. Sebastian talked to the man and found out that he was going to Dofley, and he agreed to take Heidi and her trunk in his wagons as far as the village. Sebastian gave Heidi a letter and a packet. "This is a present from Mr. Sesamon. Keep the letter carefully and give it to your grandfather," he said. Then he bade Heidi goodbye. Heidi and the baker reached Dofley just as the clock was striking 5. The baker lifted Heidi to the ground. She wished him goodbye and told him that her grandfather would pick up her trunk the next day. The baker inquired that what made Heidi come back so early. Heidi clarified everything was just perfect at Frankfurt, but she would prefer to be with her grandpa in the mountains. Thank you.